Yo, what is up, guys? It is your boy Pharaoh. Now today I'm going to be talking about the next generation of Marines and pirates alike, and I'll be focusing more on 3 individuals that we might get to see during that timeline: Luffy's son, Shanks' daughter, and Zoro's daughter. Now this is all speculation, but I would like to see a change like this. Again, we don't know what's going to happen at the end of One Piece. It's really hard to tell at this point, and it's really vague. A lot of possibilities could possibly play out at the end of the series, and a lot of people do think Luffy is going to do what Roger couldn't finish, but Rayleigh also explained and kind of hinted that it was all up to perspective. When you reach that pirate king level, the Straw Hats may have a different reaction or perspective or view than what the Roger pirates envisioned. So again, the end of One Piece is very vague at this point, but we know damn well the age of piracy will still be on the loose. There's gonna be bad people out there, and let's not forget about the Marines who have to keep these crazy individuals in check when things do get out of hand. So the next generation is something I can definitely see happening after Luffy's death and everything. Granted, Luffy will change the world dramatically, but it's not going to be this end all be all for everything. You know, there's still going to be pirates at the end of the series. There's still going to be Marines and possibly revolutionaries even after Luffy's era, and that's when the new generation comes into play. Now I don't know if Luffy is going to be with Hancock and the series. She's one of like the highly most liked candidates. Oda did hint a lot of stuff that might possibly happen between them in the SBS, and the whole foreshadow of Boa Hancock's title. She's called the Pirate Empress, and Luffy will become the Pirate King end game. Having correlating titles could mean something later down the line. And I think the part that ticks a lot of people off is the age gap. Luffy and Boa Hancock have like a 10-year age gap between them, so it's really hard for people to see that happening later on in the series. But the thing with that is that it was highly speculated that Makino actually had a son with, or a daughter with, Shanks. The gap is about 10 years, so I wouldn't be surprised if Oda actually goes that route and makes Luffy and Hancock have a child at the end of the series. Obviously we're not going to see any romance because, you know, Oda doesn't focus on that. We're just going to see the after effects of, we're just going to see the child, that's it. So I can definitely see that playing out later on in the series. Or Oda could just introduce someone else in the series, and we might not even get to see this person until we see Luffy's actual son. Then we get to see her, and I can see Oda teasing us with that. You know, we haven't still seen Luffy's mom yet, so imagine what he's gonna do to the person Luffy is gonna get with at the end of the series. So, you know, Oda is a funny guy. I don't know what he's gonna plan at the end. Now going back to Luffy's son, I can see him being the complete opposite of Luffy personality wise, and there's kind of a visible trait in the Monkey D family. You know, Garp had Dragon, Dragon had Luffy. Notice how son and father never had any sort of resemblance. You know, they're kind of, Garp does not resemble Dragon, and Dragon does not resemble Garp. It's the same way with Dragon and Luffy, but Garp and Luffy have some sort of resemblance there. So I think Luffy's son may actually end up being like Dragon. You know, not so much of a hot-headed character like Garp and Luffy, but more calm, more of a calm and collected individual. And that would be dope. I would like to see a change like that, yo. You know, that would be dope if that actually happens. But when it comes to Shanks's daughter, now I think she's gonna be more of a bigger sister to Luffy's son, and Makino might raise her to be a Marine, because I don't think she would want her to go through that kind of hardship, you know, being a pirate. She witnessed Ace's death. You know, Shanks will die in the future, so I don't think she would want her daughter to go towards that piracy route. And with that, I think she's gonna be a Marine, and she's probably gonna be hateful towards the idea of Luffy's son being a pirate, you know, taking on the legacy of Luffy, the previous pirate king. And I think she's gonna force him to become a Marine. And going by the traits we see in Luffy's family, Garp was a Marine, Dragon was a revolutionary, and Luffy was a pirate. And then it goes back to Luffy's son being a Marine. You know, it starts all over again, you know, similar to Garp, but he's not gonna be like Garp. He's gonna have a different personality. I think switching it up like this would definitely make the next generation more interesting, and I can see them looking up to Kobe. You know, Kobe at that point in time is going to be like this big guy that fought on par with Luffy. He's going to be the next new hero of the Marines, and there's going to be obviously some changes in the Marines. You know, the new generation will take over. Now people might say there's no way the son of the Pirate King would be allowed in the Marines. But the thing with that is that we know the Marines are going to change in ideology, and they might the next generation might take a different approach to that whole situation, or Luffy's son could just take a different name and live as someone else, you know, a different name. Maybe he takes his mother's name or something like just like Ace did. I can see that it doesn't have to go like it did in the past. Now on the pirate side, I think this is where Zoro's daughter is gonna play her part. Now she's gonna know the legacy of her father being the strongest swordsman, and I can see her saying, I want to surpass him, and I'll do that by becoming the next Pirate King. You know, being the strongest swordsman and being the Pirate King is kind of like a level above in a way, because you know Mihawk said, yo Luffy, you're going for a goal that's higher than mine. So surpassing the strongest swordsman is something along the lines of becoming the next Pirate King. So I think she might say that in response to Zoro being the strongest swordsman, and I can see her definitely taking Zoro's personality. You know, unlike Luffy's son and Luffy, I can see her taking Zoro's personality. I feel like Zoro's traits are too strong not to be passed on to his daughter. You know Zoro does have a tough personality, and she's gonna have the green hair and everything, and this could very well tie into the theory I made with Brook. You know, Brook being some sort of guide for the next generation. You know, he does have his immortal ability. A lot of people were saying Brook can die from age in my last video, but it wasn't hinted. It just says like the only time he can actually die is if I don't know if he can drown in seawater, or he dies by getting his body completely destroyed. His consciousness is in his soul, and your soul can basically live forever. I don't think Brook can die from age unless he kills himself by completely destroying his body. So I don't know where people are getting that Brook can actually die from age. Given the definition of his devil fruit, he should be technically immortal. But yeah, like I was saying before, he might become a mentor for the next generation. He might train Zoro's daughter, or he might be looking after Luffy, you know, looking after his captain's son. You know, there is a lot of possibilities at this point. It could go anywhere, and that's where we're gonna see the rivalry between Zoro's daughter, Shanks's daughter, and Luffy's son. You know, 2 Marines and 1 pirate. It would be nice to see interaction with these 3 individuals, and you know, there might be more. You know, Usopp might have his own kid, Nami, you know, who knows. And that's where the new generation's story takes off. Again, this is just a theory, just speculation, so don't take it too serious, you know. But tell me down below, how do you guys see the next generation story taking off? Again, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to your boy for more One Piece content, hit that notification bell if you want to be notified for more videos on this channel. It is Pharaoh, guys, and I will see you boys and girls later. Peace.